But where'd dogs come from?
Bitch-ass wolves. That's what it is. Bitch-ass wolves that were willing to come near us in the fire, and then we give them a little food, and then they realize that they can be our friend, they can get food, they don't have to hunt. And then we use them to protect the outer perimeter and to keep bears out and things like that, and cats away from people. And that if the wolves stayed close, things didn't want to get near the wolves, and so they would avoid us. And as long as we kept that kind of a relationship, you know, they've done these studies with foxes where they've had wild foxes, and in a small period of time, every time they had an aggressive fox at all, they killed that fox. And they kept these domesticated foxes, and over time their ears flopped, their eyes got bigger, they became more appealing to us, more submissive. They basically became dogs over a very short period of time. See if you find that fox study. It's very interesting. That's probably what happened with wolves. I think the wolves that realize, like, hey, you know, it's hard out there, you know, running a pack and being an alpha and getting cast out, and like, maybe I could just get near these other things and I could get a little bit of their leftovers. Like if they do really well, like maybe they get a buffalo or something like that, they kill a bison, that's a large animal. They're not going to be able to eat it all. They're going to leave like a little bit for me, and they're probably not going to eat the bones, and wolves crush bones. And so like maybe they sort of develop this sort of relationship, because wolves are very curious of people too. And they come near people and they're fascinated by people, but the problem is when they want to eat you. And that does happen, and it's always happened. It's always happened throughout history. In fact, in World War I, there was actually a ceasefire between the Russians and the Germans because so many of them were getting killed by wolves that they decided to stop shooting each other and kill the wolves and then go back to killing each other. You ever heard about that one? Yeah. Well, because it's trench warfare, right?
Yeah.
So people are getting shot, and you know, when you're getting shot, you're dying in this trench, and sometimes these guys would just get overwhelmed by wolves. Like wolves would find them in there and just tear them apart. So imagine you're in trench warfare in World War I, and you're hearing in the middle of the night people screaming, and you're just getting torn apart by wolves. They would send out parties and like search parties, and you know, they would find no one would come back, and then they would go out and they'd find a boot with a human foot in it, and like, what the fuck? And they realized, oh my God, these wolves are killing people. And they were in large packs because they were feeding on the bodies from the war. You know, the war back then is just unbelievably brutal. It's very close range. You know, you're not dealing with, you know, long distance missiles. You're dealing with people like literally creeping up on each other and shooting each other with rifles. It's horrible, horrible shit. And they're not that good at killing people. So a lot of times it kills you slow. And so these people are dying in these trenches and getting eaten by wolves, and the wolves decide that they're a primary food source. Now, why would I chase caribou and reindeer when I can just eat people?
This explains your strange dreams.
Yeah, well, I think human beings have always been afraid of monsters, right? What is that? Like children that, like Rupert Sheldrake is talking about this. Children that grow up in New York City are not afraid of things that they probably should be afraid of. You know, they're not afraid of child molesters. They're not afraid of, they don't know what that is, right? But they know what a monster is. Like a monster is in their head. Like kids are scared of the dark. It's because of cats. Like we used to get eaten by cats all the time. It's like a giant part of being an ancient hominid was probably avoiding predation from cats.